Spring break is supposed to be a time for fun, adventure, and unforgettable memories. But for some people, it became a nightmare they could never escape. Mysterious disappearances, unexplained deaths, and true horror stories that will make you think twice before planning your next trip. These are terrifying true spring break horror stories that will haunt you. Every year, thousands of students head to beaches, hotels, and wild parties to celebrate spring break. Most return home with stories of crazy nights and fun adventures, but some never come back at all. In today's video, we'll explore real-life terrifying spring break horror stories, some of which remain unsolved to this day. So buckle up and stay close, because some people who went on spring break were never seen again. Story 1. The Vanishing of Lacey Monroe. A spring break trip gone wrong. March 2017. Cancun, Mexico. 21-year-old Lacey Monroe had been counting down the days. Spring break. One full week of sun, parties, and memories she'd never forget. She and her three best friends, Megan, Tasha, and Emily, had been planning this trip for months. They had booked a beachfront hotel, VIP access to the best clubs, and a schedule packed with adventure. But what none of them knew was that for one of them, this would be their final trip. A perfect night, until it wasn't. The first 3 days in Cancun were everything they imagined. Mornings on the beach, afternoons exploring the city, and nights filled with loud music, flashing lights, and endless drinks. On the fourth night, they went to a popular club, La Caverna, known for its massive dance floor and wild spring break crowds. The music was deafening. The club was packed with people from all over the world. Lacey, wearing a red crop top and denim shorts, was dancing under the neon lights, a drink in her hand. At 1:30 a.m., she turned to her friends and shouted over the music, "I need some air, I'll be right back." They nodded, too caught up in the moment to think twice. That was the last time they ever saw her. The first signs of trouble. At 2 a.m., Megan sent Lacey a text. "Where are you?" No response. On the fourth night, they went to a popular club, La Caverna, known for its massive dance floor and wild spring break crowds. The music was deafening. The club was packed with people from all over the world. Lacey, wearing a red crop top and denim shorts, was dancing under the neon lights, a drink in her hand. At 1:30 a.m., she turned to her friends and shouted over the music, "I need some air, I'll be right back." They nodded, too caught up in the moment to think twice. That was the last time they ever saw her. The first signs of trouble. At 2 a.m., Megan sent Lacey a text. "Where are you?" No response. At 2:30 a.m., the girls left the club and walked back to the hotel, assuming Lacey had gone back on her own. But when they arrived, her bed was untouched. Her phone, passport, wallet, and hotel key, all still in the room. Now they were panicking. They checked the beach, hotel lobby, pool area. Nothing. By 5 a.m., they called the local police. Lacey Monroe was missing. The disturbing surveillance footage. The next morning, police checked the club's surveillance footage. At 1:36 a.m., Lacey was seen walking out of the club alone. She wasn't stumbling. She wasn't intoxicated. She looked completely normal. Then, at 1:39 a.m., a dark SUV pulled up beside her. Lacey hesitated, then got inside. The final call, 3:14 a.m. But there was one last clue. At 3:14 a.m., Lacey's phone made one final call to her mom. The call lasted 9 seconds. She didn't speak. The only thing her mother heard was deep breathing. Then silence. Then the call ended. After that, Lacey's phone was turned off. It was never turned on again. The strange witness account. A local taxi driver came forward, claiming he saw a blonde girl matching Lacey's description near an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Cancun around 4 a.m. She was walking strangely, almost in a trance. A man was following closely behind her. The driver slowed down and rolled down his window. "Señorita, are you okay?" She turned her head slightly, but didn't respond. The man with her gave the driver a cold, silent stare. The driver, feeling uneasy, drove away. That was the last alleged sighting of Lacey Monroe. A sinister connection? As police dug deeper, they found a disturbing pattern. Lacey wasn't the first girl to disappear like this. Between 2014 and 2019, at least 5 other young women had vanished under similar circumstances during spring break in Cancun. 2015, a 22-year-old Canadian student vanished after leaving a nightclub alone. 2016, an 18-year-old from Texas was last seen getting into a black SUV. 2018, A British tourist called her family in a panic at 3 a.m., then was never heard from again. None of them were ever found. The eerie online message. 1 year later, Lacey's sister received a message from a random email address. It contained only one sentence. She is still alive, but she is not the same. The email was traced to an IP address in Mexico, but there was no way to verify if it was real. Theories. What really happened to Lacey? To this day, Lacey Monroe's disappearance remains a terrifying mystery. There are several theories, none of them comforting. 1. Human trafficking? Cancun is known as a human trafficking hotspot. Some believe Lacey was kidnapped and forced into captivity. This would explain why other girls vanished in similar ways, and why some were last seen in strange, dazed states. 2. A serial killer? Some theorists believe a serial predator is targeting spring breakers. This would explain the similarities in all the cases, but no bodies have ever been found. 3. Something worse? Then, there's the most unsettling theory. The email. The strange trance-like behavior. Some believe Lacey was taken by something not entirely human. A cult? A supernatural force? We may never know. To this day, Lacey's family still searches for answers. Her mother refuses to give up hope. But the truth is, Lacey Monroe went on spring break and never came home. So if you ever find yourself walking alone in an unfamiliar city late at night, be careful who you trust, because some people don't just disappear. They're taken. Story 2, the Florida Hotel from Hell. A spring break getaway turned nightmare. It was March 2004, and 5 college friends, Mark, Jason, Rachel, Emily, and Kevin, had been planning their spring break trip for months. They were broke college students, so they settled for a budget hotel in Daytona Beach, Florida. It wasn't a 5-star resort, but it had beach access, a pool, and cheap rates. What they didn't know was that this hotel had a dark past. A past that would soon come for them. The first warning, the empty hotel. When they arrived, something felt off right away. The hotel was nearly empty. For spring break, they expected crowds, loud music, and packed hallways. But instead, the place was silent. The receptionist, an older woman with tired eyes, barely spoke. She handed them their keys without a smile. "Enjoy your stay," she muttered. But her voice sounded hollow. The friends shrugged it off. Maybe they had just arrived at a weird time. They laughed, grabbed their bags, and headed to room 306. That was their first mistake. The room was wrong. The hotel room looked normal at first. A little outdated, sure old floral wallpaper, a dusty TV, and a weird smell. But then Rachel pointed something out. "Why is there a lock on the outside of the closet door?" They all turned. She was right. The closet had a heavy-duty sliding lock on the outside, like someone had locked something inside. Jason laughed. Maybe they had a crazy guest. But as they unpacked, Kevin noticed something else. The bathroom mirror had handprints on it. Not just smudges, perfectly shaped, pale white handprints. Rachel wiped them away. They came back minutes later. The room was wrong. The hotel room looked normal at first. A little outdated, sure old floral wallpaper, a dusty TV, and a weird smell. But then Rachel pointed something out. "Why is there a lock on the outside of the closet door?" They all turned. She was right. The closet had a heavy-duty sliding lock on the outside, like someone had locked something inside. Jason laughed. Maybe they had a crazy guest. But as they unpacked, Kevin noticed something else. The bathroom mirror had handprints on it. Not just smudges, perfectly shaped, pale white handprints. Rachel wiped them away. They came back minutes later. The first night, the man in the hallway. That night, after a long day of drinking, the group stumbled back to their room around 3 a.m. Jason collapsed on the bed, while Rachel and Kevin argued over who got the shower first. Mark, still wide awake, heard slow, dragging footsteps in the hallway. At first, he thought it was another guest. But the steps were too slow, too deliberate. Mark got up and looked through the peephole. Outside, in the dimly lit hallway, stood a man in a torn, dirty suit. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, as if his neck had been broken. Mark froze. Something was wrong. Then, without warning, the man turned his head and smiled. The nightmare begins. Mark stumbled backward. His heart was racing. But when he looked again, the hallway was empty. The footsteps? Gone. Mark told the group, but they brushed it off. Too much alcohol. Just paranoia. But that night, all 5 of them had the exact same dream. A woman screaming, over and over. A man laughing. A locked door shaking violently. When they woke up, they were covered in sweat. Emily whispered, Did anyone else dream about a woman screaming? Silence. Then Jason muttered, We need to get the hell out of here. The second night, the closet door. That evening, they tried to enjoy themselves. They went to the beach, had drinks, played games. But when they returned to the hotel, the closet door was open. Remember, the one with the lock on the outside. Kevin swore they had never touched it. But now, it was open just a crack. The air inside was freezing cold. Jason, trying to be brave, pulled the door open wider. Inside, there was nothing. Just an empty space, except for a single chair, facing the wall. But Mark noticed something worse. The closet walls were covered in scratches, like someone had tried to claw their way out. The group slammed the door shut and pushed the dresser in front of it. They wanted nothing to do with that closet. The final night, the blood-stained carpet. By the third night, they had enough. They agreed to leave first thing in the morning. At 2:45 a.m., Mark got up to get a drink from the vending machine. The hallway was empty, silent. But as he passed room 237, he noticed something strange. The door was slightly open, and the carpet in front of it was soaked with something dark. At first, he thought it was spilled water. But then he saw the handprint. A bloody handprint, smeared across the door. Mark ran back to his room. The receptionist's warning. At 7 a.m., they checked out. The receptionist didn't even look surprised. Mark hesitated, then asked, What's wrong with room 237? The woman froze. Her voice was barely a whisper. That room's been vacant for years. No one should be staying there. The friends left without another word. The aftermath, what happened at that hotel. Years later, Mark became obsessed with that hotel. He started researching, digging through archives. And he found something chilling. In 1989, a man named Henry Sullivan had murdered his wife in room 237. He beat her to death, then locked her body inside the closet. For 3 days, guests in the room heard banging and screaming from inside. But when security finally broke in, it was too late. Henry was found hanging from the bathroom shower rod. The room was shut down. But some guests say she never left. That hotel still exists today. Guests still report strange sounds, flickering lights, and locked doors opening by themselves. But no one stays in room 237 anymore. Because the last person who did never checked out. Story 3. The Hidden Room in the Airbnb. A spring break cabin in the middle of nowhere. In March 2022, 6 college friends, Jake, Sam, Alex, Jordan, Melissa, and Rachel, decided to skip the beach parties and go for a different kind of spring break. Instead of booking a resort, they rented a secluded Airbnb cabin in Arizona. It was beautiful, tucked away in the woods with a huge fireplace, a game room, and a wraparound porch. The listing described it as a peaceful getaway, far from the city. But there was one thing the listing didn't mention. There was a room inside the house that shouldn't have been there. The first day, a strange feeling. When they arrived, everything felt normal. They brought in their luggage, picked rooms, and unpacked. Rachel, standing in the kitchen, frowned. Do you guys feel that? Melissa laughed. Feel what? Rachel shrugged. I don't know, like we're being watched. The others brushed it off. Maybe it was just the creaky wooden floors, or the way the wind howled through the trees. That night, they drank, played games, and laughed. They had no idea something else was in that house with them. The hidden door. On the second night, Jake was exploring the cabin. In the hallway, he noticed something off. There was a bookshelf pushed against the wall. But something about it didn't make sense. The bookshelf was too new, too clean. Jake reached out and grabbed the edges. It slid back. Behind it was a hidden door. The room that shouldn't exist. Jake called the others. They crowded around the mysterious door. Was this in the listing? Sam asked. Jake shook his head. No way. There was a heavy-duty lock on it. But from the outside, like someone had locked something in. Jordan hesitated. We should leave it alone. But Jake had a bad idea. He grabbed a kitchen knife and forced the lock open. Inside was a tiny windowless room. At first, it looked empty. But then they saw it. A wooden chair, facing the wall. And on it, a yellowed, crumpled piece of paper. The note. Melissa picked up the old piece of paper. Her hands trembled as she read. Do not sit in this chair. Do not stay after midnight. They laughed it off. Dude, this has to be a joke, Alex said. But Rachel wasn't laughing. Let's put the bookshelf back. Right now. The others agreed. They pushed the bookshelf back into place. They tried to forget what they saw. But that night, the nightmares started. The first warning, the shadow in the hallway. At 3:12 a.m., Jake woke up gasping for air. He had dreamed of a man standing in the hidden room. Not moving, not breathing, just watching. Shaken, he got up to get some water. That's when he saw it. The bookshelf was open again, and standing in the hallway was a tall, shadowy figure. Jake froze. The figure had no face. Then, in one fast movement, it lunged toward him. Jake screamed. The others ran in, turning on the lights. The hallway was empty. The bookshelf was closed. The second warning, the whispering. The next night, Rachel refused to sleep in the house. She and Melissa slept in the car. The guys stayed inside. At 3:07 a.m., Alex woke up to whispering. It was coming from inside the walls. He pressed his ear against the wall. He could hear someone whispering his name. Then a loud knock. Bang, bang, bang. It was coming from inside the hidden room. Alex grabbed his bag and ran. He refused to stay in the house one more night. The others? They weren't so lucky. The final night, the footsteps inside the room. At 12:45 a.m., Sam and Jake sat in the living room, drinking. Everything was quiet, until they heard it. Slow footsteps, coming from inside the wall. It was inside the hidden room. Jake's hands shook. We closed it. I swear we closed it. Sam reached for his phone and turned on his flashlight. They walked toward the hallway. The bookshelf was pushed open. The hidden room was exposed. And the chair? It was facing the doorway. But worst of all, there was something sitting in it. They ran for their lives. Sam and Jake screamed and ran. The others jumped into the car. As they sped down the dirt road, Melissa looked back. There, standing in the cabin window, was a tall, dark figure. Just watching them leave. They never looked back. The Airbnb vanished. A few weeks later, Jake tried to find the Airbnb listing again. It was gone. They searched Google Maps. The cabin wasn't there. It was like it had never existed. To this day, none of them know what they saw, or who, or what was in that hidden room. Final words, would you stay? There are thousands of Airbnbs around the world. Some are perfectly safe, and some should have never been rented out. Because if you ever find a hidden door, don't open it. If you want to hear more real horror stories, watch this next.